Good morning. I'd like to call this first hearing of the House Energy Committee to order. Steve, please take the roll.
Chair Fiedler,
Here.
Representative Boyd, Representative Brown, on leave. Representative Serrato, Representative Davidson, Representative Donahue,
On leave.
Representative Friel, Representative Giral, Representative Inglis, Representative McAndrew,
On leave.
Representative Paelli, Representative Rasnuk,
On teams.
Representative Steele, and Representative Venkat. Chair Causer,
Here.
Representative Armanini, Representative Barton, Representative Cook, Representative Ham,
He's here by teams.
on teams. Representative Kale, Representative Kephart, Representative Mahalik, Representative Rapp,
Here.
Representative Stambaugh,
Here.
Representative Warner,
Here.
and Representative Williams. Kephart
And Donahue.
and Donahue. Thank you.
Attendance is recorded.
Attendance is recorded. Proceed, Madam Chairwoman.
Thank you. The subject of this hearing is House Bill 362, printers number 375. Thank you for joining us on this busy morning, and thank you especially to the members and to my co-chair, Chairman Causer. This morning, we'll be hearing from a number of testifiers about House Bill 362. Emily Shapira, President and CEO of the Philadelphia Energy Authority, Ian Smith, Director of Residential Consultations for EIS Solar, Justin Mason, Director of Programs and Operations at the Pennsylvania Conservative Energy Forum, and Joanne Tosti Vasey, homeowner in Center County. In addition, Jeff Bristow, Chief Operating Officer of the Pennsylvania Energy Development Authority, has submitted written testimony, and all of that testimony is in the members' packets. I'd ask the members to please hold any questions until all participants had had an opportunity to present. We know we are on a tight timeline this morning, but we will do our best to get to all of the members' questions. Before we begin, and since I'm the prime sponsor, I'd just like to provide a little bit of context about this bill. Last April, the federal EPA awarded the Pennsylvania Energy Development Authority and sub-awardee the Philadelphia Green Capital Corporation $156 million for their application for a low-income residential solar installation program. That's under the federal Solar for All grant competition. 49 states were awarded funds. This money has been obligated, and in January, a contract was signed between PETA and the EPA so that, pending our Pennsylvania legislative approval, PETA could begin drawing down funds and implementing the program. The contract is a legal obligation. Since then, as you of course know, the president has issued a number of executive orders prompting review and pausing the issuance of federal monies for EPA programs. I want to emphasize that the testifiers today are not lawyers. They are not lawyers, and they will not be able to speak on the new administration's executive orders. Our task today is an important one. Our task will be to learn more so that we can determine whether the legislature should authorize a PA Solar for All program. I think that despite some uncertainty from the federal government, it is important to have this hearing today. $156 million is not a small amount of money. So let's try to learn today whether we feel that this program is a good fit for the citizens of this Commonwealth and deserves our approval. Chairman Causer, would you like to offer any comments before we begin?
Yes, and thank you, Chair Fiedler, and thank you for organizing today's hearing. I look forward to the information that's presented. I've had a number of concerns expressed to me. Overall, spending taxpayer dollars for this purpose, whether they be state or federal dollars, and also the lack of clarity, as you mentioned, from the federal government. But I do look forward to the information presented at this hearing, and thank you for putting it together.
Great. Thank you, Chairman. Our first testifier will be Emily Shapira. Ms. Shapira, if you could join us at the microphone. I ask that you please keep your remarks to 5 minutes, and when you're ready, you may begin.
There we go. Good morning, Chair Fiedler, Chair Causer, members of the Energy Committee. Thank you so much for having me this morning. My name's Emily Shapira. I'm the president and CEO of the Philadelphia Energy Authority. I'm excited to provide some testimony today in support of HB 362, authorizing the administration and distribution of Pennsylvania's $156 million Solar for All award. My organization, PEA, is a quasi-governmental entity, a municipal authority, working to build a robust, equitable, clean energy economy in Philadelphia and beyond. We enable energy project development for municipal government and school districts and run a variety of consumer and workforce programs that support the growth of markets and communities. Simply put, we're implementers. Over the past 9 years, we've supported over $900 million in energy projects and helped create over 7,600 jobs. During my tenure in this role, I've learned that Philadelphia's ability to implement energy projects and programs that benefit our residents is inextricably linked to that of all Pennsylvanians. Challenges like utility affordability, home repair, safety and health, economic opportunity, quality education, and job creation are common across urban, rural, and suburban communities, and energy has a role to play in all of them. There's a time and a place for renewable energy and energy efficiency, and we must make sure to take advantage of all the economic opportunities available to Pennsylvanians. We're committed to serving as a resource and partner by modeling and refining programs in Philadelphia that can be shared and tailored as appropriate for folks across the Commonwealth. One of our marquee programs is Solarize Philly, which helps homeowners in Philadelphia go solar. The program streamlines the process for homeowners, connecting them with vetted installers and contracts that feature consumer protections and transparent pricing. Since its launch in 2017, over 3,700 households have signed contracts for rooftop solar, of which 39% are low and moderate income households. This program has spurred $71 million in local investment and created 550 direct jobs. We remain the largest program of its kind in the nation. Our affiliate, the Philadelphia Green Capital Corp, or PGCC, is a sub-awardee to PETA in the Solar for All Award. PGCC will bring all of our experience in Philadelphia to bear in ensuring that Solar for All benefits residents statewide. I want to share 3 key lessons for you from the Philadelphia Solarize program that I hope will shed some light on the need to deploy Solar for All dollars across the Commonwealth as quickly as we can. First, solar is not just a nice to have. In Philadelphia, we've learned that solar is key to long-term affordability and preserving existing affordable housing. Solar keeps people in their homes by making energy costs affordable for the long term. Lower income households are often paying a larger percentage of their income towards energy bills than others. By reducing electricity bills down to near zero through Solarize, we've found that we can eliminate this regular and sometimes sky-high monthly expense, which helps reduce long-term subsidies needed in the utility rate base and helps keep those families in their homes. Solar for All's requirement to serve income-qualifying households will ensure that low-income households across the Commonwealth will be at the front of the line to generate renewable electricity on their own properties. It also requires that participating households must see at least a 20% reduction in their energy bills. The second point I'd like to make here is solar grows local businesses and creates job opportunities. The proof is in the numbers. We've been doing this now for 8 years. And I mentioned earlier that we generated $71 million in local investment, creating 550 direct jobs as a result of Solarize Philly. Rooftop solar and solar on your own property creates the most jobs per dollar invested than any other type of energy project. Entry-level solar jobs do not require a college degree. They pay a living wage, and often we see great opportunities for upskilling and additional skilling of existing electricians and contractors. Solar work is hyper-local, employing residents to install projects in their own backyards, whether the setting is urban, rural, or suburban. Through Solarize Philly, our 4 installer partners are rooted in our community, hiring graduates from our Bright Solar Futures workforce development program onto their teams as demand for installations grow. We train young adults aged 18 to 30 and also host a 3-year high school career and technical education program in partnership with the School District of Philadelphia to develop the next generation of solar installers, salespeople, executives, electricians, and entrepreneurs. We also recently launched a middle school CTE program in solar in Philadelphia, and we would love to invite any of you to take a field trip to Philly sometime to come and visit that class. It is truly incredible watching a 5th grader earn their ladder certification. I highly recommend it. Solar for All includes millions of dollars to support a statewide effort to train a skilled, diverse workforce and connect to employers who are growing and sustaining their businesses. This infrastructure will not only serve the households that are supported by Solar for All during the grant period, but will also create a workforce and local demand for solar from which market rate solar can thrive. So it gives that additional boost to the marketplace. And the last point I'd like to make is that solar is accessible for all when we connect it with a broader effort to restore homes. And that's something that you will get out of Solar for All. Across Pennsylvania, homeowners struggle with expensive home repair needs. Even for a program like Solarize Philly that offers a solar lease with no upfront cost, if a homeowner needs roof repair or electrical work, solar may be out of reach without additional support. Solar for All solves this issue by funding enabling upgrades that might otherwise prevent a household from going solar. The program, by design, ensures that households who can least afford it are not left behind. In Philadelphia, we pair solar with our whole home repair program to ensure that we're prioritizing energy efficiency, health, safety, and comfort to preserve our existing affordable housing. The Solar for All grant is a massive opportunity to bring long-term utility affordability to 12,500 households across Pennsylvania and to develop a job-creating solar market in all communities. HB 362 unlocks this $156 million of economic opportunity for vulnerable Pennsylvanians and costs Pennsylvania nothing. We ask this committee and the legislature to move forward to enable use of Solar for All funding. This funding creates lasting benefits for vulnerable Pennsylvanians in every district, and we look forward to collaborating with you and the communities you represent to help lower utility costs and preserve affordable housing. Thanks so much for the time today.
Thank you so much, Ms. Shapira. You could have a seat, and then we will call you back up when we get to the questions. Next up, Mr. Smith, if you could join us. And please begin your testimony when you are ready, keeping it under 5 minutes if you would.
Thank you. Good morning to the committee and to the chairs. Thank you for the opportunity to let me speak today. My name's Ian Smith, and I'm a lifelong Pennsylvanian born in a small town in Erie County. My father and grandfather worked at a chair factory when I was growing up. That has since left, but I went to Penn State, and after a brief time living in D.C. and getting into the solar industry there, I decided to come back to Western Pennsylvania. I've been in Pittsburgh since 2011, and I lead the residential division for Energy Independent Solutions, or EIS Solar, in Pittsburgh. We're a leading solar installation company based in the Pittsburgh area, and I wanted to speak in support of HB 362 today to allow Pennsylvania to access its $156 million Solar for All funding. I'd like to bring the perspective of a Pennsylvania-based installer and why we must act urgently to release the Solar for All funding. We were founded by Joe and Jamie Morinville. We're a mom and pop, started in 2008, and they continue to lead the company today. We've grown to 45 employees, including 12 hired in the last 12 months. Installers, electricians, engineers, sales consultants, operation and administration professionals. We offer competitive wages and benefits, and we do all of our own installations, which we're very proud of. Our geographic reach is focused in Western Pennsylvania, but we've gone from New Jersey out west to Ohio, West Virginia, all the way to Indiana, Washington, D.C. But residentially, we stay in Western Pennsylvania for the most part. We have more than 1,200 homes and businesses in the Commonwealth being powered by clean energy, the majority of which have deployed U.S.-made solar panels. Residential installations, and I just did this math in preparation for this. I was honestly surprised and very proud that we're saving homeowners in Pennsylvania $6.9 million per year with our installations. That fleet of installations is supported by one service technician. Solar does not require a lot of ongoing maintenance, which is a huge benefit. Through my role, I work directly with homeowners across Western PA to help make them make the switch to solar, and I've put solar on my own house and my 2 different residences that I've lived in. So I've witnessed firsthand the tangible impact solar energy can have on families, reducing energy costs, increasing energy independence, and contributing to a more sustainable future. As we continue to grow, helping more and more homeowners every year, I've been struck by the realization that the benefits of solar have not been shared equally among all Pennsylvanians. While there is a strong financial case for solar, the upfront investment can be a barrier, as well as the primary incentive of the federal tax credit isn't always accessible to lower and moderate income Pennsylvanians. So to take advantage of the sun that is hitting the roof every day, I see a huge opportunity with the Solar for All program. So the subsidized loans and leases would allow us to service a much wider customer base across our service territory, including rural areas where solar adoption has been slower. But I am happy to say I've been to almost every small town in Western Pennsylvania. If I go through one I haven't been to yet, it's always a moment to take note for me, because I have gotten to see every nook and cranny of the state through my work. Homeowners in these communities will benefit greatly, be able to access solar. The SFA program has been designed to go solar at no upfront costs and guarantees they save at least 20% day one on their electric bills. So they'll see a cost savings and a deeper savings as electric rates go up over time. And again, no upfront costs and support for upgrades to roof and electrical as well. So as the solar industry continues to grow, there'll be increased demand for skilled workers. We have already been very involved with workforce development in Western PA and will continue to do that. Seeking local talent, training, and hiring workers from the communities we serve. This not only boosts the local economy, but ensures that the clean energy transition creates long-term, stable jobs from install and through continued maintenance. For us as a company, SFA provides us with the opportunity to grow our company and workforce. A 5-year implementation period gives us the stability and outlook we need to feel confident in hiring and in making investments in the equipment, vehicles, tools, everything we need to get the job done. The impacts will be felt much more than the solar industry alone, as it ties to so many other parts of the industry. You know, we're buying a lot of local steel and all kinds of materials from Pennsylvania companies to get these systems built. So to summarize, SFA is a huge opportunity for our Commonwealth. I'm honored to be asked to come today and share the cost saving and benefits of solar energy. At EIS, we believe these benefits should be accessible to all. Missing the deadline for Solar for All funding would have huge negative impact on PA solar businesses and rural communities, the energy resilience and overall economy. This is not something we can afford to have happen. Thank you for your time and attention.
Thank you so much, Mr. Smith. And a claim to have visited every small town in Western PA is pretty impressive. Thank you. Next, Mr. Mason, if you would join us. And I do want to note that joining us now also are Reps Serrato and Davidson. Mr. Mason, thank you for being here, and please begin.
Thank you, Chair Fiedler. My name is Justin Mason. I'm here today representing for the Conservative Energy Network Pennsylvania. I am the program director and also a former solar installer. By proxy, I am the proof that rural solar can benefit the installers and help elevate our lives. I'm from Erie County, Edinburgh, PA. Thank you, Chair Fiedler and Co-Chair Causer, for the opportunity to testify before the House Energy Committee in support of HB 362, which would authorize the administration and distribution of Pennsylvania's $156 million Solar for All award. My name is Justin Mason, and I'm honored to be joined today by my executive director, Jim Gregory. As a former solar installer and current advocate for clean energy workforce development with the Conservative Energy Network Pennsylvania, I'm pleased to share my perspective on the potential this $156 million federal award for the Keystone State solar economy holds. I have seen firsthand how transformative solar can be, not just in terms of energy savings, but also in the ability for homeowners to contribute to their local economies. The benefits of the Solar for All program stretches beyond solar installations themselves. As solar becomes more accessible, the demand for related services and industries will grow. Everything from equipment manufacturing to maintenance and repair services. That means more American innovation and more energy jobs right here in Pennsylvania. The growth of a solar market can attract new businesses, entrepreneurs, and investors who see the potential for areas across the Commonwealth to become hubs for clean energy innovation. Solar is fiscally responsible and allows Pennsylvania to rely on its own innovation and clean energy sources. Reducing dependence on imported energy, solar keeps money within our local economy, supports American energy independence, and minimizes the impact of price fluctuations on energy bills for families while maximizing consumer choice. The Solar for All program's focus on workforce development means the more training and apprenticeship opportunities will be available throughout Pennsylvania, giving rural residents, much like myself, the chance to develop new skills in a rapidly growing industry. This can offer stable, well-paying jobs that will stay in the community. Solar for All encourages private sector involvement. Market-driven solutions for rural electrification will spur the solar market while providing jobs, and it will encourage energy dominance through rural electrification. Additionally, the program will encourage the manufacturing of solar components in Pennsylvania, so PA companies stand to benefit. Let me tell you about some local companies in the solar industry. Volstapine Roll Forming in Farrell produces steel used in various solar components. Vitro in Meadville is upgrading its Cheswick glass manufacturing plant to serve the solar market. This upgrade alone will create 130 new jobs, invest $93.6 million in the community. Dunmore in Bristol manufactures backsheets, a key component in solar panels. Cambria County Association for the Blind in Cambria produces wire hanging implements for wire management of grid scale solar arrays. Beyond the market impacts, Solar for All is about low income Pennsylvanians saving money. Solar energy enhances the resilience of homes. Having a solar powered home with battery storage ensures that families have a backup source of power, especially during power outages, which are more frequent in rural regions. Unfortunately, for many families, the upfront cost of installing solar remains a significant barrier. Solar should benefit everyone, and that is why HB 362 is so important. Unlocking the federal funds will help homeowners access solar energy, and Solar for All will allow them to go solar at no upfront cost. By reducing energy bills by at least 20%, the Solar for All program will provide much-needed financial relief for Pennsylvanians who struggle to keep up with rising utility costs. HB 362 and the Solar for All program represent a critical step in helping communities transition to cleaner, more sustainable energy future while supporting local economies and building American energy leadership. Supporting locally generated Pennsylvania energy and investing in every community across the Commonwealth is a bipartisan issue. This will help drive down costs for consumers who otherwise have no ability to impact their energy bill. In conclusion, the Solar for All program presents a unique opportunity to enhance the lives of Pennsylvanians, particularly those residing in rural communities. By expanding access to solar energy, this program will not only reduce energy costs and increase energy dominance, but also stimulate economic growth through job creation and investment in local infrastructure. By passing this legislation, which does not cost any money to ratepayers, Pennsylvania's General Assembly can ensure that the Solar for All funds are put to work for our local communities, helping us all secure a more affordable and resilient energy future. Thank you, each one of you, for your time.
Thank you so much, Mr. Mason. We have one more speaker. Joining us next is Ms. Tasti Vasey. If you could keep your remarks, please, to 5 minutes or less, and then we will get to the questions from the members. Thank you for being here, and you may begin when you're ready.
Hi, all. Good morning, members of the Energy Committee. Thank you for allowing me to speak today to support HB 362, which would authorize the administration and distribution of Pennsylvania's $156 million Solar for All Award. My name is Joanne Tosti Vasey, and I've been a homeowner in Bellefonte, Centre County for nearly 33 years. I have been elected to the Bellefonte Borough Council since 2016 and care deeply about my community. For the past 9 years, I have proudly utilized rooftop solar. I am here today as a community leader and solar homeowner because HB 362 represents a critical opportunity to help Pennsylvania families save money and gain control over their energy costs. This bill will unlock $156 million in federal funds to make solar energy more accessible and affordable, a step that is urgently needed in communities like mine. Let me first provide a little bit of context about Bellefonte. Like many others, our community is struggling with high costs and reduced services. We face the threat of losing our public transit system this July, making it harder for low-income families to access basic necessities like grocery stores and health care, both of which we have none in our borough. At the time when affordability is a significant issue, it's crucial that we support energy initiatives that can reduce costs for families. Our experience with solar energy has demonstrated just how transformative it can be. My husband and I decided to transition to solar as both a financial and an environmental investment. In 2013, we purchased an electric vehicle, which immediately cut our monthly fuel costs from $150 to between $38 and $50 a month. Encouraged by those savings, we took the next step by installing a rooftop solar array on our historic home. Since 2016, when we installed the rooftop solar system with 32 panels and a subsequent battery backup at a total cost of $38,500, thanks to a 30% federal tax credit. Since then, our monthly electricity bill has been reduced to just $18.02 a month. Over the past 9 years, we've saved over $18,350. Over the expected 20-year lifetime of the system, we expect to save approximately $44,900 on our utility costs. These savings have provided us with stability and peace of mind, especially as energy costs have risen. When the grid is under strain or we suffer a power outage, we know our home can rely on the energy generated by our system. This resiliency is invaluable. For example, with the addition of the battery backup system, we have not had any power outages beyond a few seconds, even though the neighborhood has experienced several. Unfortunately, the upfront cost of installing solar remains a significant barrier for many families. Solar energy should benefit everyone, which is why HB 362 is so essential. Unlocking the federal funds will help homeowners access solar energy, and the Solar for All subsidies will allow them to go solar at no upfront cost. The Solar for All program has the potential to help thousands of Pennsylvanians who struggle to pay their utility bills every month. These people often face the challenging choice of keeping the lights on and meeting their other essential needs, whether paying for electricity or accessing public transit, just like the experience of those in Bellefonte. By reducing energy bills by 20% or more, Solar for All would provide much-needed stability and security for vulnerable families, especially those living on fixed incomes or facing other hardships. HB 362 and the Solar for All program will save Pennsylvanians money while moving our state toward a cleaner, more resilient energy system. It is a rare opportunity to achieve bipartisan goals, reduce household expenses, boost economic growth, and enhance energy security. This substantial federal funding directly benefits low-income families so that they, like me, can benefit from solar energy. I urge you to support this bill and void nearly $156 million in federal funds designed to help Pennsylvanians be returned to the federal government. Thank you for your time and consideration.
Thank you so much for being here. We appreciate it. If you would stay at the table, if all the speakers could just join us so that we can move through the members' questions in a timely way, that would be great. So I will kick it off, and then I'll pass it over to Chairman Causer for any questions he has, and then we will certainly go directly to the members. Again, thank you all for being here today. Ms. Shapira, my question's for you. Grid reliability is something that is in the news a lot. We talk about a lot. We know that it is a real issue for people back home, and it's something that I am very concerned about. We need to make sure the lights stay on and so much more as energy demand grows. Can you tell us about how this program contributes to making sure we have a more stable and reliable grid?
Sure. Sorry, put this closer to my face. Thank you so much for that question. Certainly, there is tons of data out there. I don't need to be the one to tell you. Distributed energy resources like rooftop and on-site solar improve the efficacy of the grid as a whole. So whether we have, all gas and nuclear and some solar at the utility scale, renewable energy on people's homes makes that all function better. It allows us to start planning peaks rather than planning for peaks. The Pennsylvania Public Utility Commission has recently requested feedback on both resource adequacy in Pennsylvania and on how to properly regulate distributed energy resources like rooftop solar. There's a ton of really wonderful testimony there from lots of different organizations. I'm happy to share some of the studies that show the data around the support that DERs provide to the wider grid. Of course, I'm sure this whole committee has been paying attention to what's going on with PJM, our grid operator. These are highly technical issues, and I think that's been a challenge for us in a political environment where we don't really have an opportunity to talk about the technical issues as much, but PJM has a very long queue of projects to provide base power, and so distributed energy like rooftop solar is going to play an even more important role in the flexibility and the ability to make that grid function properly. So we're convinced that Solar for All is beneficial not only to ratepayers, not only to individual homeowners, but also to the grid at large in Pennsylvania.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that. Mr. Chair?
I'm going to defer to my members so that we make sure we have time to get the questions in. I know we're pressed for time, so if we can move to some of our other members.
Chairwoman Rupp?
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you, Chairman Causer. A panel, thank you very much for your testimony. I've served on environmental resources for several years and then now the Energy Committee. But my question to you, and I'm not opposed to any homeowner wanting rooftop solar if they choose to do so, just to let you know that. But for several years, I've been concerned regarding the disposal of solar panels. So actually, I've had legislation, a decommissioning plan for solar. So, Ms. Shapiro, if you don't mind me asking, does Philadelphia have a plan for, I know the supposedly life cycle of a solar panel is possibly 20 years, maybe shorter than that, but what does Philadelphia have a plan for disposal of used, decommissioned panels and the batteries? How does Philadelphia plan in its city planning or the authority What is your plan to dispose of all the panels and the batteries at the end of their life cycle?
Thank you so much for that question, and thank you for the decommissioning bill as well. I appreciate the thoughtfulness and consideration on this issue. In Philadelphia, we treat solar panels exactly the way we treat all sorts of other equipment that may need specialized removal or recycling. They're not like crushed and thrown in a landfill. They are typically, solar panels have a 20 to 25 year warranty. So even if they don't last for the full 20 years, which we don't typically see, but if that happens, there's still a warranty on them. And so the manufacturer would be responsible for taking them back and replacing them with functioning systems. At the end of the life cycle, though, when you're finished with them, typically, and I'll just add one other thing, solar panels degrade over their life. In terms of how much energy they produce. It's not like at year 25 they just shut off. So we often see people keep them even though they're producing less power until they stop producing power ultimately. But the recycling industry has come a long way since we first started hearing these concerns 15 years ago. And so almost all solar panels, one of two things happens. Either they're redeployed in the developing world. We see that often with nonprofits sending used solar panels out to countries in the developing world to power health centers or other sorts of things. They don't produce as much energy because they degrade, but they're still valuable. Or they can be recycled. The recycling market for solar panels is exactly like the recycling market for other things, where it kind of goes up and down depending on what other countries and what other people need. So sometimes it costs money and sometimes you can make money off of it. So it has varied over the last 10 years.
Thank you. And the batteries?
Oh, same exact thing. The battery industry in Philadelphia and our surrounding counties has been pretty nascent. So they've not been around long enough to need recycling just yet. We see the same thing though as like in electric vehicles, where you're retiring systems and you have to dispose of them properly. We actually do the same thing with oil tanks as well, where you have to sort of rehabilitate them after some time, or they have to be removed from the ground and properly recycled and disposed of.
Thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Next, we'll have a question from Representative Steele.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Many people in my district are struggling with all kinds of expenses right now, and as their representative, I am actively looking for ways to drive down their costs. These families understand in many cases that there could be significant savings for them if they would make the switch to solar, but they may not be able to afford that switch. So, Ms. Shapira, could you talk a little bit more about how this program makes solar more accessible for families who wouldn't otherwise be able to afford it?
Of course. One of the things we see often in Philadelphia is that folks with lower incomes often can't take advantage of the tax credit at the federal level. They have too low of an income to be able to get it. And so they really have no hope of finding subsidies for solar, and so have been kind of left out. And we hear that from the utilities often of like, is this going to just be something that only wealthier people can afford? And it creates this kind of inequality in other ways. And I think it creates challenges for regulators as well to figure out how do we make sure that we're not just eternally subsidizing low-income folks with straight cash, and they have the most expensive and most highest volume of electricity usage. So solar really provides a lot of benefits that way. The way that we are designing our program in Pennsylvania is to provide a very low-cost lease product. So there's no upfront cost. The homeowner doesn't have to worry about taking the tax credit, so it doesn't matter if their income is too low to be able to take the tax credit. That is handled by the lessor. And they pay a monthly fee for their power. So so that's it. And our goal is to sort of design the product in a way that saves at least 20%. The lower your income, the more savings you'll see. And that's the design. And it really sort of creates a market mechanism that can work both for low-income folks, but also people of higher incomes, medium incomes, who want to be able to put this on their on their homes. I think also I'll just mention, we hear a lot, I think the term that people use is the utility death spiral, where everybody who can afford to kind of gets off the grid and everybody who can't stays on, and we just will have to subsidize it. And that can create future problems for who pays distribution costs and all of that. It raises a zillion sort of technical issues about it. And so we've decided in Philadelphia to not wait for that and to not create a self-fulfilling prophecy. We've decided to take forward action and provide resources for people at all income levels to be able to access solar. And we use it as a tool for long-term affordability. So that lease product was really designed with those 3,700 Philadelphians in mind who have already gone forward. We've learned a lot from that process and used all of that to inform the state application.
Thank you so much. It's really exciting.
Thank you. Next, we have Representative Kephart.
Well, thank you, Chairwoman, and thank you for the testifiers for being here today. I apologize. We got sort of a structure in the middle, in between us here. You'll have to indulge me. I know it's like looking around the corner there. So anyhow, I have a question for you, Mr. Mason, on this. Just so everybody, I agree with Chairwoman Rapp on this, that I don't have a problem if you want to put this on your house or whatever you want to do. I'm for, above all, energy policy. I think it's great if you want to do this. I think solar offers a lot of, if you want to live off the grid, for instance, it's great. I think Congressman Thomas Massie, I mean, that guy's like conservative that goes, and he's got his whole house done in solar panels and stuff because he doesn't want the government in his life at all. So there's certain aspects of this, that's great. I also come at this, I have the largest solar panel project east of the Mississippi River in my district coming in. It's going to be 10,000 acres before it's done, which is just wild in a way, just how massive it will be potentially. But anyhow, you said this is a fiscally responsible matter. The $156 million, though, is coming from taxpayers across the country. That's just for us, right? The whole Inflation Reduction Act is over $1 trillion in energy spending. Whenever, do you know what happens when you pump money into the economy? Usually, whenever you're overheating the economy, do you know what typically happens? Yeah, so typically that causes inflation. And, it's a fiscal policy thing. You can go, I don't care if you're listening to Milton Friedman or John Keynes. Keynesian economics, they would tell you the same thing. They spend money to get the economy going and so forth, right? And that's not exactly the policy I would ascribe to. But when you do, obviously we've had an inflation problem over the last 4 years and 5 years. And, to inject more money into the economy and so forth is going to continue to create more spending and aggregate demand and so forth. I don't mean to sound like an economics professor here this morning, but I just want to point that out. I don't know. I would just combat someone that fiscally responsible to say that we're going to spend $156 million of taxpayer money. We have the energy here. We don't have to import it, like you said. In my district, we got coal, we got natural gas. It's great. In fact, instead of spending taxpayer money, it actually generates taxpayer money. We get impact fees and everything else off that. We just got a $125,000 grant in my district for flooding and so forth because of the Marcellus Legacy Fund that the gas companies are paying into. So I would just keep that in mind. So, would you suggest that this is, that what do you think this money is going to come from across the country? Is my only question is, do you think that taxpayers should be mandated to, pick winners and losers? And the Trump administration's got a pause on this. I don't know how that work out in the courts either, but, what do you think that this is a good idea though, because we are using taxpayer money to do this instead of just letting the free market go?
I believe that we're using.
Sorry, that was a lot there. But
no,
yeah.
Certainly, sir, but that was a very good question, and thank you for asking it, right? I believe Solar for All is going to help provide relief for those that are experiencing energy burden in the sorest of ways. $28 to $269 was our capacity market cost, gone up last year. We're looking at $375 next year. As energy burden continues, to be able to help rural and urban energy ratepayers, I believe that's fiscally responsible. Solar, when you put solar on your home, it is fiscal responsibility in the sense that you are alleviating your first cost of home operations, whether you're a business or a home. If you want to turn the lights on, you got to pay money. If you want to do business that day, you have to pay money. To be able to reduce your cost on energy, I believe that's an opportunity. Unfortunately, it is coming from taxpayer dollars. Yes, through the IRA. I'm going to acknowledge that. That needs to be acknowledged, sir. Thank you for your question, but absolutely, I believe solar stands a chance to help all of us across the grid. Electrons are agnostic. They don't care where they came from. It only matters where they're going, and onto the grid is what we need, sir. Thank you so much for your question.
Yeah, thank you for being here today and testifying, all of you guys. Thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Next, we have Rep. Venkat.
Thank you, Chair Fiedler. For really any of the panelists, what are the safeguards in place to make sure that the dollars, assuming that we do end up receiving them, are used in the manner that you've described and benefit our fellow Pennsylvanians?
Oh, thank you. I can answer that. The awardee at the state level is the Pennsylvania Energy Development Authority from the EPA directly. We have negotiated a work plan deeply. I'm saying we because my affiliated Green Bank, the Philadelphia Green Capital Corp, is the sub-awardee to PETA, so we'll be working collaboratively, and we were named in the grant. We bring all of our 8 years of experience doing this work to bear, so we know how to do it. So we're not concerned about being able to meet all of those requirements there. We have a very specific work plan with the EPA. I think that's been a question we've received a lot over the last few months is, could we use the money for something else? Could we, put it in another agency or whatever the things are? And the answer is unfortunately no, because there's a very specifically discussed and agreed upon legal document with the EPA. So they have really stringent oversight. We have to do a lot of reporting. I think there's a real opportunity to provide some reporting through PETA's board and through this committee to make sure that you all see the results of this and see not only the projects that are happening statewide, but in your own district. So we're very excited to be able to deliver on that, and Philadelphia is committed to partnering with folks across the state to make sure that we get that distribution in urban, rural, and suburban areas.
Thank you. We have just a few more member questions before I know many of us will head upstairs. Next, we have Representative Barton.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you all for your testimony this morning. And Ms. Shapira, I was looking at your testimony and listening to it, and I just want to quote from it, if you don't mind. There's a time and a place for renewable energy and energy efficiency, and we must make sure to take advantage of all economic opportunities available to Pennsylvania. Now, like Representative Gebhardt and Representative Rapp had mentioned, I too embrace all energy sources, but our grid operator, PJM, has issued repeated warnings of potentially catastrophic grid reliability crisis. These are big words. As early as 2026, and due to government policies just like this, forcing premature closure of reliable power plants and increasing mandates for unreliable, weather-dependent wind and solar. Why in heaven's name would we continue to invest taxpayer dollars, whether it's state or federal? Why would we invest in unreliable energy sources? And this, I'll argue that this can't be the to your testimony, Ms. Shapira, this can't be the time or the place. And how is unreliable energy, how can we consider that energy efficient? Thank you.
Thank you so much for this question, Representative. I'm honestly really glad you asked it, because I think this is one of those concerns that makes it difficult to have real and honest conversations about these issues. You're right. There is a challenge from PJM to figure out how to best put together a design of the grid that is reliable, that will support base load in addition to variable load. And PJM has fallen down on the job when it comes to that in some cases. They have a queue for new builds, both natural gas and renewables and all sorts of other things that they have sat on for many years and are trying to figure out their queue reform. For a long time, PJM said they didn't want to pick winners, and so they didn't really think about the mix that you need to have a reliable and efficient grid. What we've seen, actually, the more research that happened, is that solar and natural gas complement each other very well. Baseload is expensive. Natural gas power plants are expensive. We all know that. We know that Pennsylvania is producing a lot of that natural gas. We live in Pennsylvania, and we support all of that too. We think there is a time and a place where solar and other types of renewable energy benefits the efficacy of natural gas and coal-fired power plants and nuclear power plants as well. It takes a long time to ramp up those bigger fossil fuel energy plants. Renewables can communicate directly with those. I think the point I'm trying to make here is just technology has come a very long way. The gas market is helpful, and we will continue to need all sorts of different mix of energy to make this system work. We're not suggesting that that anything else needs to go away. What we are suggesting is that there's a economic opportunity here that Pennsylvania is really missing out on. This $156 million from the federal government will turn into many multiples of that by creating local economies that can benefit from this. I'd argue that solar's not unreliable. In fact, it's actually completely reliable when the sun is shining. That's something we know how to predict. I know, right? I mean, it's variable power. It's not unreliable. But you know, we can agree to disagree on the way we talk about it. But I think actually the cool thing that we've seen is natural gas power plants connecting with solar arrays. So you know a cloud's passing 50 miles ahead, and a natural gas plant can ramp up. So you know, I think it's just a universe where we have to all work together. It's no longer kind of one against the other, and I think that would be our take on it. Appreciate the question. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Shapiro. And I'd just like to make sure we clarify the $156 million from federal government is taxpayer dollars, not federal government money.
Yes, I'm sorry. Agreed.
No, thank you. Thank you. And thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. We have just two more members asking questions. Next, we have Representative Boyd.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm not sure who this would be a question to, but I live in Upper Darby, which has housing stock that's like from the 1920s. My house is built in 1921. And when I moved into it, it was full of knob and tube. And I expect that many houses in my neighborhood still have that because the cost to upgrade that is very expensive. So let alone the roofing costs, et cetera. So I saw that there's some capacity in here to help with people in that area. How would the people in my community be able to access this? They would meet the financial need, but their houses might not be ready for solar. How does this program perhaps help them?
I'd love to answer this and then maybe pass it to Ian if you're open to answering this question. I'm sure you've run across this often. So in Solar for All, there is money allowed for, they call it enabling upgrades. And that can include electrical service, roofs, those types of things. We pair it also in Philadelphia with our whole home repair program. So as we're doing upgrades to people's heating systems, in some cases we're changing out to heat pumps. And we pair that with solar as well. So it really does sort of behoove us as a Commonwealth to think about people's entire homes. How do we preserve that existing unit of affordable housing? I think we can all agree we've had a bit of a affordable housing crisis statewide. And so this is one of the ways that we've been able to keep those huge expenses more affordable. I think Joanne really spoke to it well, that this is a long-term investment in your home, and sometimes you can afford to make that, and sometimes you have knob and tube wiring throughout, and you're going to have to make some upgrades. But this really gives us a chance to compete, and there's a portion of those funds that can go towards those enabling upgrades.
Yeah, we see this often with our regular customers as well. You have to evaluate the electrical and roof, and sometimes those can be something that delay, or that's something we have to be upfront about if the roof isn't ready or if the electrical. I would say though that if you have something like knob and tube or existing electrical issues, solar's not going to exacerbate any issues. Obviously, the main electric service needs to be safe and code compliant. It's not as if every wire in the house would need to be replaced, or solar would be the action that made that occur. So there is that aspect as well. I would just like to add also that half of our installations include a battery now, distributed battery, so that's becoming extremely popular. We're using a chemistry now that's completely recyclable in the batteries, and at my own house, I'm actually charging my battery with the grid overnight very cheaply when the base load is available and has excess, and then during the day, I'm using the solar plus the battery to share with the grid when the rates are higher, equivalent to when there is more demand. So this responsiveness to the varying amounts of power is really something that is changing a lot, and we're seeing a lot of customers want to include the battery simply for backup power and increasingly using it as a financial tool for additional grid stability.
That's interesting. Thank you. Our final question will come today from Representative Williams.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And I know we've got to get to the floor in a few minutes, so I'll try to make this quick. Ms. Shapiro, I think part of what you're hearing from one side of the aisle is just a poor use of vocabulary. And I would offer that very kind comment to you, because I think you'll find sympathetic voices on both sides of the aisle when it comes to distributed energy resources and an all of the above strategy. Coming from Delaware County and working formerly for an energy company that was working hard in the solar world, this is something that we know that we need, and we need it especially in the low-income communities, because we know that they are disproportionately impacted by low air quality. And a lot of that coming from vehicles, not from energy generation. But you literally said in your testimony, and I mean literally, that this $156 million will cost Pennsylvania nothing. And when you're talking to a room full of representatives from all across the state, I can promise you for the 98% of the people not with solar power, it costs us something. In addition to that, every tax subsidy to offset cost to solar customers costs everyone else something. And here's my question for you. With regard to a ratepayer's bill if they have solar on their rooftop, they have the opportunity to offset their entire electricity bill, not just their energy demand, but their distribution costs as well. And any distribution cost that is offset by a rooftop solar customer is immediately passed along to every non-solar customer. So a non-solar customer is getting hit with $156 million, tax credits for those who get to install it, and now the distributed energy cost for every solar house that is able to offset the entirety of their bill. Will you commit today on behalf of a municipal authority in Philadelphia to working on net metering reform so that solar customers still have to pay their distribution costs so that we don't get hit with three costs? Thank you.
Thank you so much for that question. That's something we talk about all the time in Philadelphia. I think there are differences of opinion on what the value is that solar brings to the grid. And that's not something we've had our PUC do a study on in the past to determine whether there's value that those solar customers are providing back to the distribution grid. In our territory in PECO, we find that the capacity planning has some real financial benefits if we are strategically deploying distributed energy resources. And so we are not prepared to say that there is simply a subsidy towards it, that there are actually benefits to the grid development and to the utilities as well and the distribution system. So I totally hear and appreciate this point, and I know this is an issue that the utilities want to talk about, and I hope that is something that we can all talk about with the technical issues in front of us as well. I think you're right to question it. Also, apologies for sort of absolutist language, and I really appreciate that feedback. The point I was trying to make, maybe messily, was simply that it's dollars that are already committed. It's come out of previous tax dollars from the federal government that have been paid. It's allocated, it's contracted. There's nothing in the Pennsylvania budget that needs to happen in order to make it go, and I should have been more specific about that.
Yeah, except the Inflation Reduction Act did nothing but actually spur another wave of inflation. So that's why many of these dollars have been put on hold. And I would gently push back again on this notion that the value of solar to the grid is so important that a solar customer not pay any of their distribution costs, because it costs PECO money to bring that electricity to the home, whether it's from a generation site somewhere else or bringing solar energy back to the grid because they're selling it back into the grid. And if they're not paying their portion of those distribution costs, the rest of us have to pay for it.
Yeah.
For a third costs that it doesn't
Understood.
relate to our energy bill at all. Thank you.
Sure. Appreciate that.
Thank you. I look forward to seeing what happens next for these funds that are obligated and contracted. Thank you to the testifiers, thank you to the members, and thank you to Chair Causer for bringing a spirit of inquiry to today's proceedings. With that, this meeting is adjourned.